The roguelike genre has been something I would gravitate to like a beach ball connected to a string attached to a cord stuck in the sand, where it tries to explore its horizon but then comes back full circle anyways. Sorry for the analogy, but that just came up. It's a genre where you risk everything, but along the way it gets somewhat easier because of what you've unlocked from before. I love the genre, and it's the exception that I make for permadeaths, whereas in the past, it annoyed me in other games like Outlast and the recent Doom games. But you know what all roguelites have in common? Addicting gameplay. Part of their charm, apart from the randomization and unique playthroughs, is the tight and well put together gameplay that makes you ignore the fact that you're essentially replaying the game over again and again without finishing it. It's gone from platformers to turn-based strategy RPGs, deck building, and finally shooters. First-person and third-person shooters, and there's top-down shooters as well, have always been a perfect fit for roguelites because they're paced well enough to keep the interest going, and it's a genre that a lot of people like overall. Games like RoboQuest and Battle Shapers are projects that I'm excited for because it shows a refreshing direction for not just shooters, but also roguelites that have been stuck in mostly the 2D space for long enough, with some exceptions of course. But still, more 3D is always welcome in my book, which finally brings me back to Doom once again. Now recently, I wasn't just looking at its multiplayer scene that not enough people talk about here on YouTube, but also the newer mods that have been coming out of the woodwork within the Doom community. New maps, assets, and mods are always being updated and made. The classic ones, to be exact, are the most replayable games in the entire franchise, more so than Doom Eternal because of those reasons. There are also so many genres within those games through Doom itself, through modding, and guess what? Roguelites have now joined the Doom family, or more specifically, the Doom modding family. Now, Roguelite has somewhat been officially done within the mobile game Mighty Doom to some capacity, which combines top-down gameplay with roguelite elements. But it's something that, if I'm being honest, never really cared much for. In fact, I haven't even played it and probably never will. But on the other hand of classic Doom, I've discovered a project that is far more to my liking, that brings the classic gameplay into the roguelike hemisphere, Doom Infinite. Doom Infinite is a roguelite shooter that takes inspiration from other popular games in the franchise, and yes, before you say it, there is a roguelite game for Doom called Doom RL, but they're different in both gameplay as well as the distinctions between roguelike and roguelite, where one is more hardcore and unforgiving and the other is more forgiving each new run because of permanent unlocks. Doom Infinite has the same sort of gameplay as the vanilla experience, but with a lot of changes, and I mean a lot, and mind you that this mod isn't even remotely finished. In fact, it's a demo and it's packed full of content already. Anyway, the premise is that you seem to be in an infinite cycle of death and rebirth, where you endlessly go through the same hub that has hidden pathways to items as well as challenge rooms that lead to some nice loot, going into the portal that leads you to the same levels from the first game and lasts for as long as possible, at least until you die. In it, you have a variety of modified weapons, enemies, power-ups, and secondary items that you can activate, not to mention other health and armor pickups that can greatly benefit you on harder runs. The premise here is pretty simple. Go through the level as normal and kill X amount of enemies until the exit door is open. A lot of the levels from my experience seem to randomize between all the ones from the first Doom, and not to mention that certain properties change each time. And no, from what I've heard, custom mods won't work on this game, nor will other mods. Enemies here will keep infinitely respawning as well as other items. You can also find other secrets that lead to other goodies, and there are even NPCs apparently, which I haven't found yet. The enemies for the most part here though, have been somewhat revamped, and they even have updated attack patterns and abilities. It's quite a challenge, and it gets even more intense for one reason. Something that is on the top right of your screen, the curse meter. For those that have played Risk of Rain, the game gets more difficult as the timer progresses, scaling the difficulty based on the time spent. The same is true in this game, where each time you get a curse up, it only invites more dangerous and chaotic enemies along the way, making it way harder to take down enemies like even the shotgunners and the imps, and piggies too, which are really annoying in this mod. The item combinations can also be stacked up, which does make it somewhat easier, but at the same time, it can also potentially backfire on you if you don't know the consequences of using those abilities or holding those items. But if you're already familiar with the nature of roguelites and how you can't necessarily plan for every outcome, then you'll know that sometimes you'll be dealing with some bullshit here. Sometimes this mod can be hard, but it can also give you some really shit luck and it can feel unfair. When you die, you get prompted to start the next run, and this menu is where you can check your highest score, what your favorite weapon or item was. You can also choose different modes like training mode, but you won't get any achievements. Normal here is the difficulty that most will go for, and when you play on it, it gives you instructions on how to progress through the level and get out of there. Hard mode, I believe, doesn't do this, and also the meter goes up faster, so you need to be quick and stack upgrades and get mod packs for your weapons. That's right, you can upgrade your weapon stats to make them more effective, but they're not common, and the more time you spend looking for them, the more you put yourself at risk of dealing with a higher curse meter. There are tons of buffs and debuffs that you'll come across each time, but the main thing to factor in is this. The goal will ultimately boil down to speedrunning the level basically. It's like in the Nightmare difficulty in the classic Doom games where enemies hit like a truck and you need to get out because of respawning enemies. In this game, there are no rooms to clear. Enemies will continue spawning until you either die or leave the level. It's a roguelite experience that can last you countless playthroughs, and for what's already been accomplished with the demo, it's honestly fantastic and it's becoming one of my favorite mods next to Doom RPG Rebalanced, God Complex, and Project Brutality. But even the developers of this mod have said that there is a lot of work to do, even in spite of all the mutators that they've also added amongst other features. The mutators, or challenges, giving you different challenges and a target of levels to complete with different effects. This demo has more than almost any demo that I've played, and if it's already this good, then I cannot wait to see what comes in the full release of the game. Beyond Doom Infinite, what makes Doom perfect for roguelites? Well, it already has everything going for it. It's simple but addicting gameplay, its iconic premise and setting, music, enemy variety, memorable weapons, all the works. All important components that make roguelites like The Binding of Isaac and Risk of Rain 2 great. Classic Doom, just through modding alone, can adapt other genres and even other types of shooters. It can become Halo or Counter-Strike or even Quake, and in between that, all the other genres that it's been warped into. It's one of my favorite modding communities next to the Source modding scene, and it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. And another thing to note as well, mods like Doom RPG or roguelike Arsenal could technically be played like a roguelite or a roguelike, especially if you have the Obsidian map maker, which through seeding generates not only entire maps but even megawads instantaneously. It's unbelievably good. The only thing you'd have to do is make a rule like what Mutant Mods said and just start a new game when you die, like what speedrunners do when the run's dead. If you wished Doom was a roguelite game, then look no further than the Doom Infinite mod. It's amazing. Thank you for watching.